a somber day in the world of wrestling is hit. As reported by What Culture and or Cultaholic, I don't remember which one it was. I think it was whatculturewrestling.com today. WWE and NWA Hall of Famer, the WWE and NWA Hall of Famer, whose real name was, and forgive me if I mispronounce this, Hossein Khosrow Ali Vaziri, aka the Iron Sheik, unfortunately passed away at the age of 81. He died peacefully, for those wondering what happened, according to the managers of his Twitter account. Born to an impoverished Irani family in 1942, the young Iranian in the city of in the province of Damaghan, he grew up with little money and no running water in a working class family, and idolized Iranian Olympic gold medalist the Golamazera Takhti. So he made a name for himself as an amateur wrestler, as well as the bodyguard of Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi for several years. In 1968, Sheik would try for a spot on the Irani wrestling team for the Olympic wrestling team for the games that were going to be held in Mexico City. He didn't make the cut, but his wrestling knowledge would eventually, after his move to the U.S., would eventually land him a spot as a coach for the U.S. Olympic team during the 70s, even helping them out, even coaching them in the 1972 Munich Olympics. It was around that time he would begin his wrestling career, or when he was invited by Vern Gagne to train at the AWA Academy. He was trained by one of the Wigan Snake Pit masters, the master of the Wigan Snake Pit, Billy Robinson, in the same class as Ric Flair, and even wrestling for the AWA at the time. Then working as a trainer alongside Vern's son Greg, Jumpin' Jim Brunzell, and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Ironically, Sheik got his start as a babyface, but it didn't last long, as one of the promoter suggested, why not go with a heel look based around your heritage? Vaziri took this idea to heart, and he would shave his head, have his signature buffalo mustache, wear curled Persian wrestling boots, an idea they got from Jimmy Snuka, and became the infant originally known as the Great Hossein Arab. Yeah, you knew sooner or later that name wasn't going to stick. He would also introduce the challenge of the Persian clubs, or as they're known even though technically the clubs didn't originate in Persia, they originated in India in the 5th and 7th centuries, but the 5th through 7th centuries as a strength training exercise, but the point still applies. '79 would mark his debut in the then WWF. He'd win a battle royal to get a title shot and lose to Bob Backlund later in the night after a 30-minute battle. He would then feud with Chief Jay Strongbow and Bruno Sammartino, who were on their way out, before he chose to leave in 1980. He joined the Jim Crockett promotion for a brief stint until '81, where he would take on the name the Iron Sheik, even capturing the NWA Mid-Atlantic Heavyweight Championship from Jumping Jim Brunzell. and also getting in a feud with Blackjack Mulligan. 81 to 82, he was in Mid South, then Championship Wrestling in Florida for a month, for a 1 month stint in 82, before spending about a year in Georgia Wrestling from July of 82 to July of 83, until August of 83, before coming back to the WWF, where on the Christmas Eve episode of All American Wrestling, he would end up challenging Bob Backlund to lift the Persian clubs. Backlund succeeded, only to get mugged and have his neck injured, and 2 days later, Sheik would capitalize on this, and Arnold Skaaland will throw in the towel, ending Backlund's 6-year stranglehold on the gold. But of course, with Backlund on his way out, you needed someone. Sheik was one of the last true transitional champions. The heel that would be the stepping stone to start to skyrocket an incoming hero. And that incoming hero character was, of course, Hulk Hogan. As if less than a month later, Sheik would drop the belt within 5 minutes. A little less than 5 to 10 minutes. Thus beginning the era of the Rock and Wrestling age, and of course, the era of Hulkamania. A year later, after a bitter feud with Sergeant Slaughter to close out his year in 85, he would team with Nikolai Volkov for one of his most successful stints, a tag team with Nikolai Volkov under the tutelage of Classy Freddie Blassie. One of the things the duo would do to get under the skin of the fan base was this.
What do we always say, son? Liberty Mutual.
Stupid ads. Just give me a second, folks.
Ankle. Please welcome WWE Hall of Famers Nikolai Volkov and the Iron Sheik. What?
I'm glad Fink's got the mic and not the Sheik.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Oh no.
Nikolai Volkov requests that you all rise and respect his singing of the Soviet National Anthem.
Yeah, they do that. Volkov would demand that the fan base would rise and respect him singing the Soviet anthem. All the while, he had the Soviet flag on his arm while the Sheik had the Irani one in his hands. This, of course, led to chorus of boos from the usually pro-American crowds. That said, those boos were not enough to stop Volkov and Sheik from winning the WWF tag titles off Barry Windham and Mike Rotundo, the All-American, the U.S. Express. They would end up dropping the titles to the British Bulldogs. In between 85 and 87, Volkov would find himself, Sheik would find himself in Cyndi Lauper's Goonies, the music video, the Goonies are, what was it called? Let me, just a sec. Goonies Are Good Enough, and was part of Hulk Hogan's Rock and Wrestling cartoon show. Granted, it wasn't him voicing himself; it was It was voice actor Arnold Kincaid, or Aaron Kincaid, the late Aaron Kincaid. Excuse me. And usually, at the end of every single one of those things, he would scream, "Iran number one, Russia number one, USA or Canada," if they ever did shows in Canada at that time, whenever they did Canadian shows at that time. "Hak pui!" But misfortune would hit him when he and Hacksaw Jim Duggan got arrested for being high on possession of marijuana and cocaine. Sheik would get the boot in May of '87, in October of '87. He'd make a brief return in '88, in February of '88, only to leave again in July of that year. He was supposed, due to his weight and his mobility. As he was getting backlash for his recently increased weight and lack of mobility, something that would plague him in later years and confine him to a wheelchair, or in most cases. It would have him confined to a wheelchair unless he could put on a special brace that would hold him up. From '87 to '89, he would bounce around between WC World Class Championship Wrestling, back to the AWA, and then to the World Wrestling Council in Puerto Rico before making a 2-year stop in WCW from '89 to '91. Yes, the Iron Sheik was in WCW for a stint. One of his feuds had him against Sting and Ricky Steamboat. He would leave the company that January before being called back to the WWF around the time of the Royal Rumble '91, going into WrestleMania 7 season, where he would ally with Sergeant Slaughter under the name of Colonel Mustafa. Basically, two Iraqi sympathizers allying themselves with the American turncoat. That it is, Raphael. Raf C. That is. Moving on. This was basically to coincide with the first Gulf War, which now at this point I'm starting to think was rather pointless. But that being said, Slaughter would eventually turn face after SummerSlam '91 when the feud ran its course. He would then lose matches to the likes of Slaughter, Tio Santana, the British Bulldog, Ricky Steamboat, the Texas Tornado, Hacksaw, and Tatanka. He would then get one more crack at becoming the top dog in the 1992 Royal Rumble. He entered the match number 24 and lasted a little more than 3 minutes. It's getting dumped out by the Macho Man just as the model Rick Martel had come into the ring. After that, he would leave the company with his final match defeating Reno Riggins on May 19th, 1992 at a Superstars taping. His later career had him try his hand in the UWFI in Japan for shoot fighting, and it didn't go over well. Then he went on a wrestling tour in Nigeria in '94 that was co-sponsored by Pepsi. It was okay, but didn't go over that great. Then he was the champion of the Century Wrestling Alliance before he dropped it to Vic Steamboat in '93. His final match took place at MWF Soul Survivor 6 in 2010 when he teamed with Jay Lethal under the Black Machismo gimmick to defeat Stalker Dylan Kage with Paul Bearer. Hey, put that Dylan Kage in the combo clutch! He would stay in the MWF as a manager up until his death as of an hour ago. But prior to that, in 1996, he made a few more sporadic pop-ups from 96 to his death. Beginning in late 96, he would take Rikishi Fatu, who had been repackaged as the Sultan alongside Bob Backlund, under his wing. Where Sheik got some in-ring time with The Rock and his father, Rocky Johnson, at WrestleMania 13 in 97. He would then manage, during the summer of 97, he managed Tiger Ali Singh alongside Ali's father, Tiger Jeet Singh. But by the year's end, and he had failed yet another drug test and was kicked out of the company. Then came the gimmick battle royal at WrestleMania 17, April 1st, 2001, where all the most outlandish gimmicks of the 80s and 90s popped up to basically beat the crap out of each other. Gimmicks including, aside from the Sheik himself, but were not limited to, Duke the Dumpster Droese, before he had that staph infection which took his left leg, Sergeant Slaughter, Hillbilly Jim, Tugboat, Earthquake, Doink the Clown, don't know which guy was under the makeup, the Gobbledygooker, Jim Cornette, Brother Love, Kamala, Kimchi, the Repo Man, the Bushwhackers, the One Man Gang, the Goon. I can't say this last one with a straight face. The Goon. Seriously. Who thought the Goon would be a good idea for a wrestling character? And it was won by the Sheik. Oh, and Nikolai Volkov was in it. I forgot. Nikolai Volkov and Michael Hayes were in this match. I forgot about those two. But instead of booing the shit out of the Sheik when he won the match, the fans cheered him, given that he had obtained a cult following amongst the fan base at the time. Only to have Sergeant Slaughter attack him and put him in the and have him put Sheik in the Cobra Clutch. He would be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2005, the night before WrestleMania 21, by the Sarge. Then he appeared on the June 11th, 07 episode of Raw alongside Snuka. Then the August 13th WWE Idol spinoff. The March 10th, 2008 edition of Raw with previous rivalry WrestleManias. Then the 10th anniversary of SmackDown he popped up on. During an interview in 2004, though, for the MWF Shoot Interview DVD, it made him a star, or to a whole new generation of fans, when he talked about his hatred for the following guys. He hated, both on a personal and professional level, B. Brian Blair, the Killer Bees, Jake the Snake Roberts, and of course, Hulk Hogan, amongst just naming a few. Of course, on November 16, 2009, of course, during the anniversary episode, oh, of course, during the November 16th, 09, that 10th anniversary episode of SmackDown, during an argument with Sergeant Slaughter, he choked on a shrimp and then got helped by Hurricane Helms. November 16th of 09, in the opening show, he, Rowdy Piper, and Luis Guzman were going nuts on Hulk Hogan, proving their dominance with LJN action figures. Ugh! Why LJN? And as part of the old school theme, he appeared with Nikolai once again singing the anthem with Cynthia Morel and Vladimir Kozlov, the latter of whom did a duet with Volkov. And then he proceeded to rant about Hulk Hogan before the mic got cut off, which would be his final appearance with the WWE. He also had a film career with The Tale of Three Mohammeds in 2005, alongside Daniel Baldwin and Corey Feldman, and then appeared alongside Corey Feldman and Daniel Baldwin in Operation Belvis Bash in 2011, and on the Canadian show Kenny vs. Spenny. In the episode Who's a Better Pro Wrestler, where, and I shit you not, he tried to sodomize a naked Spenny with a beer bottle. Keep in mind, I remember Kenny vs. Spenny being on Comedy Central for a bit, but I never watched it. He also appeared on Maz Jabrani's 2009 stand-up comedy, got into a over-air radio fight on the Howard Stern show with the Macho Man, where he called him a jabroni Jew. Brown and Friendly was named the comedy special, and appeared himself on Robot Chicken, and appeared on the Eric Andre show on Cartoon Network's Adult Swim in 2014. Then he acted in a documentary about his life titled The Sheik. His time as a soldier in the army, then eventually getting out in the Imperial Iranian Army, then becoming a wrestler, eventually led him to meet the woman who would become his wife, Carol J. Peterson, in March of '76, with Gene Okerlund as his best man, where he would always call him Gene Mean. He is survived by 2 living daughters and his grandchildren. He had a third, but his eldest, Marissa, was murdered by her boyfriend, Charles Warren Reynolds, in May of '03 at the age of 26. He was taken into custody and later convicted to life sentence in prison. He would die 13 years later on May 31st, 2016. In August of 2013, his managers, Paige and Gian Magan, crowdsourced over $40,000 to direct, write, and produce the documentary, Iranian Legend, The Iron Sheik Story. The documentary was originally scheduled for an '08 release under the title Iron Sheik from A to Z, but it was later released in 2014 under the title simply The Sheik. On November 6th, he challenged the mayor of Toronto, Rob Ford, to an arm wrestling match. By the late 2000s, he became known for his Twitter account, which featured a lot of violent, profanity-ridden tweets denouncing various pop culture events. Granted, these were not written by himself, they were written by his managers. As I mentioned, Sheik died today at the age of 81. According to his managers, he passed peacefully. Farewell, Sheik. I didn't know you all that well, as I wasn't alive during the prime of your career. What I did catch of you during the mid to late 90s, it was okay. But of course, your Twitter account, your handle raids, and of course, your constant saying, fuck the tomato, fuck whatever, fuck it Hulk Hogan, fucking bullshit, will always ring on. He became a mainstay on the contrails before his death, in the events leading up to his death. I've rambled on as much as I can about the Iron Sheik. But Sheik, rest in peace. And as a tribute to you, not my own political beliefs, Iran, number 1, Russia, number 1. USA Haktoi. Again, strictly as a tribute, not my political beliefs. Leave a comment, smash the like, and sub to the channel. this is Mets2128 signing out. Goodbye, good night, bang, and Sheik, rest in peace. We're going to miss you.